toward revolution around this globe, and how is it impacting workers here in the United States? And with that understanding, how do we contribute in a way where we recognize the impact on workers here and our role as workers united around the globe? What does that mean for us? And so we're going to now bring up Comrade Antoinette to give us the breakdown on that, so we can pull this full circle. Bring it full circle.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all again for being with us tonight as we talk about this U.S. government shenanigans, not only globally, not only nationally, but locally here in New Orleans. This week, I spent a lot of time in the hospital caring for my mother. I planned on spending the majority of my week doing extensive research for this talk today, but like a lot of my fellow working class folks, we got to reprioritize in the ways that is supportive and healthy for the folks in our family and communities. Anyways, while I was in the hospital, I did something that I haven't done for years. I watched a lot of cable news. And what I saw was the U.S. government's pro-war propaganda machine in action. My mama and I were bombarded with breaking news saying that Iran had attacked a ship and is building a nuclear weapons program. Political commentators saying how Iran is a repressed society. The White House vowing to protect America at all costs, and we must spread democracy. This poison was pushed on us in 24-hour news cycles designed to pump fear into our veins and garner working class support to step into another unjust war. But as I sat by my mother's side at an understaffed hospital with overly expensive treatment, as she got ready to begin a series of lifelong treatment that was necessary to sustain her life at the cost of $15,000 per week, I could not help but wonder, when will the U.S. government would deem the health, welfare, and social economic stability of the working class as a goddamn priority?
Ooh, come on.
When I started this line of questioning, it's always important to start with who is making the money. In the case of Iran, Joseph has given us a clear historical context on how corporate greed is the root of the conflict with a country that poses no threat to the working class of America. That this propaganda campaign is just a continued shoveling of our stolen tax money to feed the capitalist addiction to militarism and war. Since the formal formation of the United States by the white ruling class known as the Founding Fathers in 1776 until now, the United States government has been in some form of military conflict for 93% of the time. Let that sink in. Out of its 243 years of existence, 222 years have been spent engaged in warfare. That is 22 years of terror that the American government has waged on the working class of the world and at home. In the majority of these wars, the U.S. government has been on the offense. Since World War II, most of the military operations in the world has been launched by the U.S., making the U.S. government the #1 threat to peace on the planet. Within that 222-year span, the U.S. Department of War, renamed the Department of Defense in 1949, has been on a steady incline of spending. Spending that is actually money generated by our labor, scooped up through taxation, that is supposed to be used for the common good. Our money should be going towards quality education, adequate housing for all people, a healthcare system that ensures that we have access to everything we need as human beings to live full, health-filled lives, that we are in harmony with our planet, forming a pathway of continued existence for many years to come. Instead, our taxes are stolen to fund imperialist wars across the globe. In 2020, $718 billion 57% of the federal budget, has been earmarked for war spending. That is more money than the next 7 countries on the list combined. Compare that to 90 billion, 7% for health and human services, 52 billion, 5% for education, 44 billion, 4% for housing and urban development, and 11 billion, 1% for labor development. The U.S. government is prioritizing war above our children, our collective health, adequate shelter, and jobs. As the U.S. government continues to push unjust wars, destroying the environment and the working class communities around the world, folks at home may feel disconnected to the global struggle. We can see the same investment in policing and violence in our own backyards. Just look at this chart. This investment in the criminalization of the working class, in the divestment from our children, employment opportunities, healthcare, is reflected on the local level right here in New Orleans. Please know that when the capitalist class invests in wars abroad, they are actively divesting from the needs of working class folks within the U.S. As a lifelong worker, there is no need for my mother to be put at risk of poverty for getting her health needs attended to. There is no need for her children to lose income to offer support to her at this time. The staff at that hospital should not be working double shifts and burning out while they attempt to offer her care. It really cannot get any clearer than that. America is truly putting our money right into capitalism's war-hungry mouth. Democrats and Republicans are totally complicit with the war machine pyramid scheme, funneling our tax money to war profiteers who are the puppet masters of the bootlickers in Washington. The top 5 military contractors in the country, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, and Lockheed Martin, will be seeing big profits due to the military budget that was passed overwhelmingly by both Democrats and Republicans. Progressives know that the right wing and war go together like a hand in a glove. But what about the Democrats? The self-proclaimed champions of the progressive America. Why would they pass this bloated budget that takes resources away from the things that directly benefits us all as a society? Because the same military-industrial complex parasites that stand to rake in cash hand over fist are the same ones funding Republicans and Democrats. Donald Trump, Steve Scalise, Beto, Elizabeth Warren, and many others are all receiving funds through political PACs, direct contributions, and individual donations linked to military contractors. Within a political system that allows lobbyists and industries to control our so-called representatives monetarily, we, the working class, do not have a foot in the game. Our planet is paying the price as well. The Department of Defense is one of the biggest polluters on the planet. Brown University recently released a report revealing that the Department of Defense is the world's largest institutional user of petroleum. Iran, I wonder. And correspondingly, the largest producer of greenhouse gases in the world. According to the report, the DoD released approximately 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, between 2001 and 2017. Since 2001, the DoD has consistently consumed between 77 and 80% of all U.S. government energy consumption. In other words, the same institution that has kept America at war since 2001 is not only killing people, but also killing the planet. CNBC pointed out that the findings showed that if the Pentagon was listed as a country, its emissions would make up the world's 55th largest contributor of greenhouse gases, bigger than Portugal or Sweden. Our lives and the fate of our planet is not something to be toyed with. We are deserving of all the benefits of existence just because we breathe, and our labor creates abundant resources for us to have those benefits. Period. We are the working class. There is not $1 that is being used to fund these wars that is not generated from our collective labor. Just as we have the power to create the surplus value, that we also have the power to change our material conditions. Through the dialectical lens, we know that when we awaken to our collective power and realize we are the flame to the capitalist tick sucking our lifeblood, and the hand that wields the match is socialism. My friends, in order for us to pluck this parasite from our flesh, we must act. We must move as though our lives depended on it. We must act as though the world is waiting for us to realize our power. We must move as though we must act as though the world is waiting for us to realize our power. The power of the people. We must speak truth to power and talk to our families, friends, and fellow workers. We must combat false patriotic fear mongering with facts. We must move with a sense of urgency that is also rooted in the fact that we must organize. We must take up the revolutionary mantle. There is no way forward but through revolution. Not reforming a system which foundation is rotted with greed and enslavement. We must build anew. And we start the building right now, in this moment. You have taken the first step. You're in the room. Keep coming back. Keep questioning. And keep spreading the news. Now, that's the whatever part of my talk, but I think it's just so important that we recognize what solidarity and what revolutionary action is. It's not, oh, there's some shit going down in Sudan. Let me make my profile picture blue. You know, it's not, oh, I'm gonna send like $2 to this nonprofit organization, and you know what? I've done all I can. What are you doing to further the revolutionary here? The world is waiting for us. What are we doing as working class people to not only educate, agitate, organize the working class, which we all are members of, but how are we moving that revolutionary energy forward in real and tangible ways? Coming here, again, is a wonderful start. Being informed, like being able to step outside and say, you know what, that's what you're seeing on TV, lies, garbage, nonsense. Let me give you the real. But after you give the real, I need you to be in the streets. I need you to be organizing, because that is the only way forward. The only way forward. So that's all I got to say. Thank you so much.